Thank you for all of you for logging in. I'm excited about this course. I really like the International Existing Building Code. It's something that's kind of near and dear to my heart. As Maria mentioned, I authored the 2018 IEBC handbook for McGraw-Hill and ICC, and it sold like 5 copies. That was a bummer, but I think part of the reason why is a lot of times we still don't go into the IEBC that much. A lot of times we still kind of rely on the IBC, and a lot of times we'll look at existing buildings as if they're new buildings just because it might be easier. Well, I hope today, as we go over just the structural provisions of the 2021 IEBC, we'll feel a little more comfortable with what's there. Many of you are both design professionals, you're probably licensed structural engineers, and many of you are also building officials. Either way, I hope you'll get a good understanding of the structural triggers that are within the IEBC and some of the things we can do that help us to make an existing building more safe while not necessarily having to comply with all the requirements that we would for new construction following the IEBC approach. Anyhow, you see on here on the cover slide, it does have my phone number, my email address. I believe I have that on the last slide as well. If any of you have any questions that we can't get to today and you want to reach out to me, please feel free to give me a call or shoot me an email. I'm happy to help in any way that I can. As Maria said, we will have a couple of breaks. So please note any questions that you might have right after those brief 5-minute breaks. I'll try to take some time to answer questions. If we're running out of time, I may just ask those of you that still have questions that have been unanswered just to stay on a little bit after, and we'll try to tackle those. But okay, well let's get into the 2021 IEBC. The purpose of this course is for us to kind of get a good understanding. It's an intro, right? You're not going to be an expert per se. You still have to dig in. I mean, we're only spending a couple of hours on this, but it's an intro for how it's going to be laid out. So you'll see how it's broken down and where to go based on what the needs of your project are. We're definitely going to be focusing on the mandatory structural triggers that are located within the IEBC. Now, the IEBC has a lot of triggers in relation to means of egress requirements, some fire safety requirements, accessibility, some electrical, some mechanical, very, very minor on those fronts. But I would say 2/3 of all triggers in the IEBC have to do with structural. The majority of the book really focuses on structural triggers. So hopefully today we will really focus on those. We'll get an understanding of what those triggers are. We're going to be talking about the requirements. We're going to break it down by, okay, this project has repairs. This project has alterations. This has additions, changes of use. We're moving the structure or it's a historic building. Any of these items bring red flags up in my head as a plans examiner. Once I know something's being submitted for repairs or alterations or additions, I know exactly what I should be looking at in relation to the IEBC. So hopefully, all these mandatory triggers we're talking about refer to, all right, is it a repair, an alteration? Hopefully by the end of today, you'll be able to break it down. Okay, this project is going to be an addition. What are the main structural triggers I need to be aware of as a designer? What are those triggers I need to make sure are being addressed in the construction documents as the building official, plans examiner, or inspector? So the way we're going to break it out, we are going to kind of follow step by step through the IEBC, but first I want to start with an introduction on just how we got to where we are with the 2021 IEBC, and then we'll get into it. We'll cover just a few items in chapters 1 through 3, which I feel are very important. And then we'll cover repairs, which is chapter 4. We'll cover the prescriptive method, which is chapter 5. We'll get into the work area method, which is chapters 6 through 12. We'll cover the performance method, which is chapter 13, and then relocated and moved buildings in chapter 14. And then we'll do a brief summary at the very end. So that's kind of the process we're going to be following. So first, as an introduction, this is a picture of a main street that could be almost anywhere throughout the United States. A lot of the older building stock that we see on these main streets or early settled areas, they consist of what we refer to as unreinforced masonry buildings, URM. Or it could also be light frame construction that has a lot of standard brick veneer and parapets. All of these are items that, these aren't the most safe buildings in seismic country. So a lot of the triggers we will be discussing is when do we need to address unreinforced masonry and if we're in a seismic country. But there's also triggers that we'll talk about in relation to wind, in relation to flood hazard areas, snow requirements. So it's not all seismic, but a lot of the triggers will be seismic, and they will depend upon how old the building is, what type of construction it is.